Hello, friends of the Diocese of Washington. Thanks for taking time to watch this video address. I'm grateful for the opportunity to speak with you as we prepare for Diocesan Convention and describe some of the ways that we, as the Episcopal Church in Washington, D.C., and Montgomery, Prince George's, Charles, and St. Mary's counties, are following Jesus in the way of love. The places where we're working to strengthen congregations, helping our people grow spiritually, and doing the work of justice. I'd also like to tell you some of the plans we have for convention itself and beyond to speak to you about the coming year. In fact, let me begin there with the year, what lies ahead. I've been your bishop now for 7 years, and I've been blessed with a 3-month sabbatical that allowed me to look back and ahead. And I believe the time has come for a prayerful, discerning conversation and strategic planning process in every geographic region of the diocese, so that together we might identify both the places of great potential and the most pressing challenges in each region. Equally important in this work is for us to agree to a common course of action. To that end, I ask that we devote time and energy in 2019 to this discerning work. First, of clarifying our purpose, our reason for being as the Episcopal Church. Second, that we name together our current realities in every region, where we are now and where our congregations are headed if current trends continue. And that third, we discern together God's preferred future for the Episcopal Church as part of the wider Jesus movement in our regions of Washington, D.C., Montgomery, Prince George's, Charles, and St. Mary's counties. Then we'll need a plan to realize that preferred future. We'll need a strategy of specific steps that we'll commit to together that will move us forward toward those horizons. And between now and convention, members of the diocesan staff and I are researching and learning more about this strategic work so that at convention, I'll be able to offer more specifics. And we will also, in this time, solicit your feedback. So if you have any thoughts about how to go about this process, please feel free to email me. In the time remaining, I'd like to review a few diocesan highlights from 2018, all of which hold the promise and potential of what could surely be our future of both faithful and fruitful ministry. For example, in September, we ordained 12 vocational deacons, bringing to 24 the number of deacons that are in ministry in every region of the diocese. That in itself is extraordinary, given that when I arrived 7 years ago, we had 2 deacons, and as yet, no established deacons formation process. The realized and potential fruits of the deacons' ministry are many.
Hello, my name is Sue von Rotenkrantz, and I serve as the Archdeacon in the Diocese of Washington. And you might be saying to yourself, well, what is an archdeacon? And I will tell you that an archdeacon is responsible for overseeing the discernment, the formation, and the deployment of deacons throughout the diocese. Here are 2 examples of how deacons are engaged in ministry in the diocese. The Reverend Susan Walker, who serves as a deacon at St. Stephen and the Incarnation Parish in D.C., also has a great passion for elder ministry. Over the last 2 years, she and others developed a program called Sightlines, a spirituality program for elders. This was piloted in 2018, and we have already had requests for further engagement with that program. Over the next few months and years, the deacons of the diocese will be engaging with her to develop a more comprehensive program for elders throughout the diocese. Another deacon, newly ordained in September of 2018, is Sandra Bromble. She comes from St. John's Parish in Mount Rainier. During her internship at Washington National Cathedral, she connected the community of St. John's with the Task Force on Immigration at Washington National Cathedral. St. John's Mount Rainier is a multicultural parish that has many West Africans and Caribbeans in their community. Many of these people have been living and serving in the Diocese of Washington for 30 years, but don't have a legal immigration status. She's helping those congregations to bridge that gap. And she's now serving at the Church of the Holy Comforter in DC, which also has a significant immigrant community, and she'll be using those gifts there as well. We now have deacons serving in 30 congregations, many of whom are already in collaborative relationships. In time, the deacons hope to develop a network of mission and ministry throughout the Diocese of Washington, so that if you and your faith community want to develop a ministry in a particular area, deacons will be able to connect and engage you with others who can guide and advise you in that ministry. If the ministry of bridge building and making connections excites and engages you, give me a call or send me an email. The diaconate might be for you.
We also ordained 2 priests this year, both of whom are serving in EDOW congregations through a strategic partnership between the diocese and the congregations, in which the diocese pays half of the priest's salary and benefits for 2 years. That brings to 4 the number of newly ordained priests that were raised up from this diocese that we have been able to strategically place in congregations that are poised for growth. For example, the Reverend Serena Sides Willie, raised up for priesthood from St. Columba's, is in her 2nd year at Christ Church Capitol Hill through this diocesan parish partnership. And as a direct result of her leadership, the children and youth program there has grown 50%. Adult faith formation has also increased with 6 high-commitment small groups, a summer mission trip, parish camping trips, and retreat days. They have an Invite, Welcome, Connect plan involving 40 congregants there to strengthen the core hospitality aspect of their parish life. Sunday attendance has grown 15%. Last year, they welcomed 17 households as new members. And this experience has been so positive that they are stepping up their giving as a congregation and plan to continue supporting a 2nd priest after the grant period has concluded. This is precisely the kind of partnership that we want to offer throughout the diocese, as we ensure that those we identified as possessing the leadership skills needed in ordained ministry in this century, that those people can return to us after seminary and be placed in congregations that are poised for growth.
Hi, I'm Paula Clark Cannon for Clergy Development, Multicultural Ministries, and Justice. A main focus of my work is transition ministries. When a priest leaves a church or accepts another call or goes into retirement, a parish is in transition. And when clergy leave those parishes, I work with the lay leaders to recruit and find new clergy persons. And as you can imagine, clergy transitions are really difficult in the life of a parish. And so we try to be flexible to look at options for that time of transition that work best for parishes and people within that parish. And at any time, the diocese can have as many as 20 parishes in transition at the same time. And so we try to work with each parish to the extent that we can to make sure that they're making the best call for them. Finally, we have also worked with the different initiatives in the social justice arena, such as the March for Our Lives and taking actions advocating on behalf of immigration reform as well as racial justice. And so I look forward to working with you, whether discerning a call to the ordained ministry or a new call in ministry, or you're interested in multicultural work or social justice. God is active in the Diocese of Washington, and I invite you to listen to and act upon how the Holy Spirit might be working in your life.
Another area of strategic congregational investment is through the Congregational Growth Grants. And among these year's recipients, St. Thomas Croom received funding to actively engage people who come to their weekly successful farmers market. St. Anne's Damascus received funding for an in-depth exploration of their community and also to host an Invite, Welcome, Connect workshop for all of northern Montgomery County. Parishes in Southern Maryland received a grant to fund a collaborative youth and family missioner position, as have the congregations in Northern Montgomery County. And here's an amazing story. Ascension Gaithersburg received a 2-year grant, which allowed them to keep their gifted Latino missioner, Javier Ocampo, during a time of leadership transition. Javier and the Spanish-speaking congregation added so much life and joy to all of Ascension that when their longtime rector retired, the congregation voted to call Javier as their priest in charge. Strategic partnerships and funding creative initiatives are part of a long-term strategy for congregational renewal and growth. It's also the immediate result of a growing commitment from our congregations to invest in diocesan ministry through annual financial support. When I arrived in 2011, congregational giving to the diocese was unsustainably low, with most congregations giving well below 5% of their normal operating income. And there was little incentive to increase giving to the diocese, even among those in a position to do so, given our collective dependence on trust fund income. 3 years ago, I asked all congregations to consider increasing your support to diocesan ministry by 1 percentage point a year until reaching a tithe. That would allow us in turn to redirect those trust fund incomes to leadership development and congregational growth initiatives. In 2018, 28 congregations increased their giving by 1 percentage point toward a 10% tithe, joining the 11 congregations that are already tithing. And 11, by the way, is over double the number of congregations tithing when I arrived. And through that increased giving, we are making strategic investments. I want you to feel proud to belong to this diocese and proud to support our efforts to know and love and serve Christ, one another, and our world. I also understand the financial, material, and membership realities that the majority of our congregations struggle with. 2 years ago, we established the Strategic Financial Resources Commission, and last year, the Commission hosted 4 financial and new member workshops with over half of our congregations participating. In addition, 6 congregations are receiving sustained support through the Commission's 18-month pilot program. We're also making spiritual investments in our congregations. In 2018, for example, we introduced throughout the diocese the Way of Love, practices for a Jesus-focused life. The Way of Love is a spiritual rule of life that Presiding Bishop Michael Curry introduced to all the Episcopal Church at our General Convention. And members of the diocesan staff and I worked this summer to craft an 8-week Sunday morning lectionary, along with daily devotions and small group resources based on the Way of Love. And this fall, in my Sunday visitations, I am preaching from this lectionary, as are a dozen or more congregations across the diocese, and we're producing a Way of Love podcast. And this lectionary and all of the resources that go along with it is available on the diocesan website for congregations to use at any time. Finally, let me tell you about Clergy Conference last May. I invited Tony Morgan, author of a book entitled The Unstuck Church, and director of the Unstuck Church group, to spend a day with us. And he walked us through the typical lifestyle of any congregation or an initiative within a congregation, all the way from its beginning phases through what he calls momentum growth, strategic growth, to sustained health, which he considered the optimum stage for established congregations. But from there, he said, if there isn't some sort of holy interruption, congregations invariably move into a maintenance phase, and from there to preservation, and from there, again, without some kind of interruption, to life support. He then explored with us specific strategies for interrupting the cycles of decline and encouraging the cycles of renewal, growth, and sustained health. For some of the clergy present, these insights gave them both a language and specific tools for engagement with their congregational leaders. And as a result, several churches of diverse size and demographics and place on the life cycle are taking concrete steps towards sustained health or new life. And because the positive response was so broad, we've invited Tony back to address us in a wider audience. He's coming on the eve of Diocesan Convention from 7 to 9 at Washington National Cathedral. This is an optional gathering for those lay and clergy leaders that want to learn more from Tony and to hear from other leaders in the diocese that are finding this approach to congregational renewal so helpful. So look for more information about the Unstuck Church gathering as we draw closer to convention. But if you're interested, mark your calendars now, Friday evening, January 25th, 7 p.m. at the Cathedral. We'll live stream the event for those who can't make it in person, and we'll have the recording for later use. We're also working to arrange overnight hospitality in EDOW members' homes near the Cathedral for those traveling to the convention from longer distances. And be sure to let us know. You can email me if that would be helpful to you. Dear friends, God willing, and with your consent, I hope to serve as your bishop for many years to come. And I specifically spent sabbatical time asking Jesus, what kind of bishop did he need to lead this diocese in this next season of our life? And what kind of church would help fulfill his mission? And what kind of Episcopal church would help fulfill his mission of love in our world? And from that prayer, and later conversations with leaders throughout the diocese, has emerged this sense that now is a time for prayerful, discerning, region by region, strategic planning, clarifying our purpose, and then taking steps to realize specific goals in the next 3 to 5 years. Then, after we do that, we will have ample time to celebrate what we've accomplished, learn from our missteps, and evaluate our efforts. And with that first arc of discernment, planning, and evaluation behind us, we'll begin the process again, and then again, so that the pattern and the disciplines of intentional, collaborative strategic ministry will become a part of diocesan muscle memory as a gift to future leaders and the foundation for a fruitfulness in ministry that we can only dream of now. Thank you for listening. God bless you. And I look forward to seeing you at Diocesan Convention.